Hey everybody, thanks for joining SpringPath, the podcast. We have a great show lined up, lots to talk about, so let's get after it. Hey everyone, thanks for joining this episode of SpringPath, the podcast. I have a special guest here today from Manhattan College, Lauren Checo. How are you, Lauren?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited about this episode because I really, it kind of pulls it all together because now, you and I got to know each other a little bit offline and we've been talking, but your background, really, you started off in theater and then kind of did this in tandem and got into, admissions, but that tied in with The City That Never Sleeps makes this a great story. So why don't we start there? How did you get to where you are today?
Yeah, so in my undergraduate days, like most first-year students do, I attended an activities fair. In that activities fair, I saw a gentleman that was standing at the admissions table. I looked at him, he looked at me, I said hi, and I waved, and he said hi. And then kind of like when I was walking by, he's like, we're actually looking for greeters, and you just like completely nailed it.
You just nailed it.
Yeah, so he's like, do you want to come work as a greeter in admissions? So I was like, yeah, sure. I mean, if this is the extent of all the hard work I have to do, then I think I got it.
You were a natural.
I was a natural. And then he was also extremely excited to hear that I was from New York City too, because he said that we're not natural greeters. So just kind of working in the admissions office in my undergrad, I started off as a greeter, got promoted to a tour guide, and then eventually an admissions intern for our multicultural division. So that's kind of how I got started with admissions. And then in my senior year in my undergrad, I was like, I think this is it. This is what I want to do for my career. So far cool. It's worked out really well. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, while you were going to class, you had on-the-job training the whole since
the whole
your first
time.
Year.
Yeah, no, I mean, and anytime, obviously, especially now, anytime I say hello, I've kind of always brought back to that like initial moment of like, oh, this is how I got started here. But yeah, ever since then, I worked in admissions before Manhattan as well, kind of marrying my two loves, as you mentioned, like theater and admissions. I worked for an acting conservatory. And then kind of when the job opened up here at Manhattan, I was like, this is it. This is the perfect move for me.
So that's a great segue. So let's actually talk about The City That Never Sleeps, Manhattan College. You have a campus right there, but there is so much that the city offers. It's kind of electrifying. So tell me some of the unique qualities of your campus and the city being right there.
Yeah, so I think probably one of the best things that Manhattan offers is this really great middle ground between we're in a really quiet neighborhood in the Bronx. I know that kind of sounds like an oxymoron, but I swear it's true. We're in the Riverdale neighborhood in the Bronx, but we're on the first stop on the one train or the last stop, depending on which direction you're kind of heading into. So I always tell students, you'll never get lost. Just stay on it long enough and you'll come right back home. And the one train is great because it kind of runs through the Bronx, all throughout the west side of Manhattan. You can take it to go to the ferry. It stops on 34th Street, 42nd Street, kind of all the places that people think about when they think about New York City. So it's just a quick, easy stop for our students so they can kind of take in as much of the city as they want to, but still have a very residential campus. We have all of the traditional college setup. We have a quad, we have academic buildings, and we're also very centralized. So we don't have satellite campuses. You can walk from one end of campus to the other very easily. You don't need a shuttle bus. So it really is easy for our students to feel like home or that they belong here very quickly.
No, I mean, in the way that you describe it as well, I mean, having the campus like that where it's not spread out, I think of someone coming, from outside the city and then just landing there their first day. It could be overwhelming. Mm-hmm. So the fact that you have kind of this homey, New England-esque campus, and then you can start to experience the city. But, in some of our talks, you were saying, we only have two types of students, though. They're either all gung-ho for the city or they kind of stay on campus.
Yeah, they'll hang around here. They won't go very far. We're right next to Van Cortlandt Park too. So maybe they'll hang out at the park. But they tend to be like homebodies, I guess, a little bit. But then we have students that 2 o'clock, their class ends, 2:05, they're on the train, and, we won't
They're
see
out.
them until Sunday night.
Yes.
So it kind of depends on what the student wants. And that's what is exciting about Manhattan, is that there isn't a cookie cutter version of what your journey is going to look like. You can pick and choose kind of what weekend you want to have.
Sure. No, that's cool. I think it's kind of leads into my next question is, now let's put our, looking at it from the perspective of, I'm a first year student. This is my first time going to this school. What are some of the things that you offer to help? I think you used the word cushion, but transition as students are getting prepared.
Yeah. So firstly, like before you even arrive on campus, if you're accepted into Manhattan, you can apply to our Arches program. It's a living and learning community. There's no additional cost to being a part of Arches. You get to live on our suite style buildings together. And you also get to take a class together. So the reason why I called it a cushion is I think that sometimes the transition to college can be a little bit rough, and having already kind of a community of people that you moved in together with. They move in a couple of days earlier than traditional orientation. You also get to go on excursions together around New York City. So kind of having kind of like that built-in structure can help some students kind of alleviate any stress that like traditional orientation can cause. So that's why I always say like it's a little bit of a cushion to like the kind of fun journey that is orienting yourself to a new school.
Yeah, but I mean, it creates common ground as well. Like you said, you get to live together for a short time. You get to go to class together for a short time. But now you're exchanging phone numbers. They're not necessarily your best friends for life. But this is where you start. This is where you start networking, and now you have someone to go to breakfast with.
Yeah, seeds of friendship. That's what I always say.
Yes.
By the time orientation begins, you will have those seeds of friendship kind of already going. And since we're in the Bronx in New York City, you may also have already known like your favorite pizza place. You might have time to kind of like, go through all 6 of them that are nearby here and figure out which one is your favorite. So by the time orientation rolls around, you're like practically a New Yorker.
So let's talk about that. So you get through orientation, you do Arches, you're on campus now. What are you seeing that are what are successful first year students doing that maybe some students are? What do you typically suggest? I know you have a few programs and things that the school offers, but essentially to get themselves out there and start being a part of it.
Yeah, so definitely the first thing that we would suggest, like kind of calling back my own story, but the activities fair, we have a huge one that happens on campus. So getting involved with, different organizations that are on campus is definitely kind of like the quickest and easiest way.
That's where admissions recruits people.
Right. I mean, for me, that's how it works out. But even I remember like we had tour guides come in a couple of weeks ago when they did the fair. Like 2 days later, they were talking about like, oh my gosh, I signed up for like 5 different fairs, like 5 different things. 2 of them were things that I'm interested in, but then 3, I was like, I kind of have an interest in it. Let me try out this club, meet new people. So that's when we see that on campus. That's always really fun to kind of see where students' interests take them.
Sure.
So that's definitely like the number one sign of a successful student if we see them coming into that realm. But I think really the true test is within the first couple of weeks, maybe even the first month, if we see them kind of like go beyond just the activities that we set up for them. But if we see them, we have a service suite for students who are interested in doing community service. So if we see them kind of popping up in there and saying that they're interested in participating, if we see them pop up even in our career development office, kind of interested in looking at different internships or work opportunities that they can kind of take advantage of even as a first year student. Really, when we see that, we're thinking, okay, this person is like hit the ground running. This is going to be a smooth transition for them.
Yeah. And all those doors are open. I mean, that's what's great about it is just to have that opportunity. And then, like you said, when you see them go to the career services, there are first year internships. There are things that can really get you started right out of the gate.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's definitely, even if something doesn't quite match up, even starting that conversation earlier rather than later is only going to help a student. I mean, the Office of Career Pathways is always ready to talk to students regardless of where they are in their kind of like Manhattan stages, just so that they can kind of get a pulse on even if the student sometimes shows up and says, I have no idea what I want to do with my life, that's something that they're ready to kind of help you out with and say, okay, let's start looking at your resume. What jobs do you have already? Or what kind of experience are you looking for? So that kind of works in tandem with the career development office, but also our academic office as well.
Yeah, so let's talk more about that, because you have kind of a unique approach given the size of the school and the student body. But you have talk to us about the 5 schools, but then the advisors and the career advisors, because there's a lot of staff that's available.
Right. Yeah. So each school does have their own advisor for the student. They're going to reach out to the student during the time of orientation to introduce themselves, make sure that the student kind of has a point person. We always kind of call it kind of like transitioning from admissions over to the academic side. So maybe somebody who's been working with me throughout the academic process may now work with somebody in our School of Engineering or our School of Science. So they kind of have somebody that they can go to kind of say, hey, I have questions about my class or the schedule, or this is what I'm kind of interested in doing with my internship or with my career. Do you have any suggestions? They're definitely there to kind of help the student. And luckily, they introduce themselves super early. So the students should know who they are. They should kind of have a rapport with them already.
Yeah, and the way we talked about this offline is that, more often than not, you as the admissions advisor, you're bringing the students in. If they didn't check in with their advisor, or if they haven't had that conversation, you get phone calls.
We do, yeah. They will reach out to us if the person hasn't reached out to the advisor or has done anything, even as small as check in about AP scores, and if they've transferred over, they will reach back out to us and say, hey, have you heard from this student? They haven't checked in on their class yet.
Yeah.
So even the first week of ad drop, we're still kind of working with the academic department registrar to just make sure that the student is interested still in class. And if there is kind of any sort of issue, if we can troubleshoot it with the student
Sure.
to make sure they kind of like, even if they've had a bumpy start, just to kind of smooth that transition over.
Yeah, it's kind of a checks and balances in the beginning, but ultimately they get on their feet and find success.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk more about the programs. So I know you have 5 schools. Maybe you can give your 2 cents on each of those schools, but also like what you're well known for.
Sure, absolutely. So I would say probably what Manhattan is most well known for is our most populated school, which is our School of Engineering. Within that school, definitely mechanical and civil engineering are the most popular, but we also have chemical engineering. We also have computer engineering as well. So there's definitely a couple of different options, electrical engineering as well. And we even have like an environmental concentration. So there's a couple of different options within that school that students can participate in. Right after that, we have like our O'Malley School of Business. Definitely have a really strong connection with our alumni to help students with internships. Overall, like 83% of our student body has career-related experience before they graduate, but business students have like the high 90s in completing at least one internship before the time that they graduate, which is really important for a lot of these like business-minded students.
Sure.
With our School of Liberal Arts, it's our largest school in terms of programming. We have anything from the languages, psychology, sociology, communications. So I think the fun part of Manhattan is we're like a large school in terms of land, but we're a small school like in terms of, I always say like kind of like heart. Like we are really small, intimate classes. We have like about 13-to-1 student faculty ratio, but
Okay.
at the same time, we have the programming of a large school. So we have over 100 different programs. So what I'm mentioning is just kind of scratching the surface. We also have our School of Education and Health for students who are interested in becoming a teacher or administrator for a school or hospital. We have our School of Science, where students are interested in kind of entering into the health field. We have a pre-health professional track. Usually they'll major in biology, biochemistry, computer science for students who are interested in more like the coding system. So really it's more of what can't we do for you at Manhattan? Because we have so many different opportunities here.
So Lauren, you've had some recent developments on campus, specifically for the engineering department. Can you talk about that?
Sure, absolutely. So we recently opened our Higgins Engineering and Science Center on the southern side of campus. So we have 14 new labs that our students can use. We have everything from brand new mechanical engineering labs to chemistry labs, biology labs, and it's actually right next door to our older engineering building. We're still utilizing those labs as well, and we actually have renovated a couple of them, so we're at the same kind of like level as what we're offering in Higgins. But it's just an opportunity for our students to kind of get even more experience. And as I mentioned before, with the small class sizes, having these new labs just kind of go hand in hand with giving our students the experience that they deserve on campus.
Yeah, and it's exciting because you have those new types of developments, but then, it kind of dovetails into what you mentioned earlier, how strong the alum
Mhm.
program is. And I think you have, is it called the mentoring program? What's the?
Yes, we do have a mentor program that's through our Office of Career Pathways. So they will match students who are accepted into the program with a Jasper alum. A Jasper is our mascot. It's one of the more unique mascots I'm sure you probably have ever heard. But a Jasper alum will be matched with a current student, and that alum will assist them with um, in anything from like mock interviews, looking over their resume, inviting them to networking events. We recently had a tour guide who was from 2015. So it's not just older alums, it's kind of more recent alums as well that participate within this program. And she was trying to go for an internship, and the alum was able to kind of go through her resume, made changes to it or suggested
Sure.
changes. And then she actually got the internship down in Florida, which she did
Wow,
over
it's
the
great.
summer. Yeah, so we definitely see a lot of our alums giving back as much as they can, or even if they can just kind of do like send me all of your resumes and I'll take a look at them. They kind of give back as much or as little as they can do.
Yeah, and to your point, I mean, this is the alum, this is the mentor network program,
Mhm.
because you still have career services, so they're going to help you with blocking and tackling, getting those things set up. But then
Right.
to have that extra touch of someone who's been in the field and then can come back and say, "Hey, come here. Here's what we want to do," it
Right,
really
right,
sets you up to be on your.
exactly. Yeah, that's the part that's kind of like a kind of we can't put a price on it. It's
Right.
priceless to have
Yes.
our alumni not only say like support what we're doing here, but at the same time being like, hey, I also took the same classes you took. I have the same took the same professors. So make sure you get this from this professor, get this from this class. If you're interested in kind of doing an internship over here, like think about that. So you kind of have two sides that are working together for the same goal.
That's awesome. Yeah. So I guess what I would say is, based on what you shared with us today, I mean, you have the best of both worlds with the, New England-esque style campus that's right there transitioning. You can be a homebody, stay at home on the campus. You can tap into the electrifying network of the city with shows. You have museums, anything you can think of,
Yeah.
sightseeing. It's really fun.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
and then you get into the whole strength of the alum, like you really have that transition to get into the workforce, and I think it's all successful and great.
Yeah. No, I mean, Manhattan is definitely a one in a million place. I mean, I think almost anywhere in New York City can say that, but
Yeah.
I think it's really true just based off of what we can offer the students and how we kind of differ from other schools in the area as well.
Yes, I agree. So Lauren, if somebody wanted to get a hold of you or they wanted to look up more information, where would they start? Would they check out the website?
I would definitely suggest checking out the website first. If they want to reach out to an admissions counselor, more than happy to speak to any student, myself as well.
Okay, cool. What's the website address? And we'll put it up in the
Sure.
bottom.
It's manhattan.edu.
Oh, that was easy. All right, we can remember that one. All right. And if they wanted to get in touch with you, we're going to drop your email in the description as well.
Yeah,
That works?
absolutely. I'm more than happy to talk with any parents, students who have questions about Manhattan or what we can offer them.
Okay, cool. So we'll have them reach out. And as always, for all our viewers, you can always go to springpath.net and see if Manhattan College is a match for you. Lauren, thank you so much for being on the show. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Take care.
You too.